As we've learned from human psychology experts, the formative years of a child's development from age 0 to 8 are when they are most impressionable. These are when children experience most rapid development in their cognitive abilities and when they are more enamored and affected and influenced by their immediate environment and the things that they observe. As a child under these ages, I was no different. I was affected by many things I saw. I remember I had a mortal fear for people with uniforms, especially policemen. My parents often threatened me with policemen to get me in line when I got naughty. And I also remember the wide-eyed admiration I had when I saw anyone operating a typewriter, the dexterity they displayed with the typewriter set, and also the sounds that those typewriting sets made. They captured my childlike admiration. But the crowning glory was when the upper of the typewriter would slide to the end, and then with one swift motion, they would bring it back. They were like superheroes to me. That was my first introduction to tech, and my first experience of how technology can make human life easier. Now, over time, tech has evolved from typewriters to what we know today. But the superhero status of the tech professionals is still the same because of the massive solutions that tech provides in our society and our world, and also the economic and financial pull that the tech industry commands. Nigeria has not been left behind in this tech revolution. We have a lot of brilliant tech minds in the country and a lot of tech entrepreneurs establishing successful tech startups. Since 2021, Africa as a whole raised over $4 billion in capital for their tech startups, with Nigeria accounting for almost 40% of that figure. So we know that Nigeria is at the forefront of the tech movement in Africa. Now we all know the economic values of tech and the technology, but there are also some importance for the society, especially governance. And investment in tech could ensure more open and transparent governance, which is something our democracy is in dire need of. America understands this, and that's why they have leveraged on their leadership expertise in the digital and tech space to still be known as the world's foremost economy, and you could say democracy. So the question now comes, how can Nigeria leverage on our own tech evolution to place ourselves at the forefront in democratic stability in Africa? How can our tech entrepreneurs and experts be encouraged to be involved in public interest, community development, and nation building? This is the Reawakening Nigeria, and today we are talking tech, startups, and nation building. And I have two guests here with me who are good players in this tech space who are going to help me in this very critical discussion to try to see how we can make our tech giants to be effective in building and fixing Nigeria. I have with me on the show Cynthia E Chisom. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Akinola King.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us. So I'll just let you introduce yourself to our audience. I'll start with you, Cynthia.
Okay, thank you so much. It's really a great pleasure to be here. Having this kind of conversations are like my major area of strength. So my name is Cynthia E Chisom, and I am the CEO and founder of the Abuki Group, but I also work as a startup advisor across incubators and accelerators in Africa. I help early stage startup founders navigate through the early stages of building their startup so that they can stand the test of time, especially since that's what we really need in this country. So yeah, that's what I do on the daily.
All right, Akinola.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Muyiwa Akinola, and I'm the founder of Concolex Technologies Limited, with multiple products such as OneNet servers, a web hosting company, and Mola Africa, which is our recent product, which is a peer-to-peer crypto exchange platform in Nigeria. And I'm really excited to be here to have this conversation with you regarding technology, startups, and nation building. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. As you can see, our guests are overqualified to be discussing on this topic. So I'll start with you, Cynthia. As somebody who is in the tech space and particularly in the startup space, what are the peculiarities of establishing a tech startup in Nigeria that is unique just to us?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think first of all, the fact that you are able to come up with an idea, I think that's one of the major peculiarities, because there are a lot of problems. So that's really what separates us from other countries and other environments. The fact that there are so many problems to solve, meaning there's so many opportunities. I mean, yeah, there are challenges, but it just opens you up to more. Because I remember while I was in London, right, and I looked at some of the ideas and the products that the startup founders in London were coming up with, right, and I felt like, you know, they were just like, you know, when you have exhausted all the possible ideas and you just have to start, you know, solving whatever is.
What already exists.
So I think that's like the major difference, right? The fact that you can walk on the streets and you're faced with like so many opportunities to like solve real problems that affect real people. But you know, there's also the idea that is very common, which is that regardless of the ideas that you have and the problems that you want to solve, you're faced with a lot of challenges. You know, the basic electricity, you know, a place to work, internet access, you know, those are very common things. But I think the fact that we have such a very powerful spirit to push through, which makes, you know, most startup founders like more willing to like face and just jump through challenges, because nothing is easy. You know, you don't have everything easy as compared to when you're in London, where everything is available. So I think that's like the major difference. There's a lot of opportunities, lots of problems, and regardless of the challenges, there's this spirit that is being built into you to push through those challenges. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Akinola, during my monologue, I listed out a number of impressive sounding stats of Nigeria and being at the forefront of tech in Africa. But do you think, compared to the global scale, that our tech industry is doing enough?
Well, thank you. That's a good question. I think our tech industry is doing enough, to be very honest with you. And there are more things that we can actually do, you know, to help Nigeria to retain the forefront of, you know, the fundraising and, you know, to continue to pioneer amazing products. So yeah, the tech industry at the moment is really doing good.
All right. Most of Nigerians tech startups that are doing well are either in fintech, energy, e-commerce, or logistics. Seeing as you talked about, Cynthia, of solving practical problems, do you think these areas really get to solving the problems that affect the average Nigerians, or they just look nice on paper?
Yeah. You know, this is a conversation I've had with several of my colleagues. Henry will just go back and forth talking about some of the activities that we see in this space, and it's a mix of like a lot of things. So first of all, we are glad that, you know, the world is paying attention to us, and you know, there's a lot of funding in these sectors, right? But it's a mix of, okay, who is funding this? And it's usually external investors, people from outside, right? And one thing I noticed, even while I was in London, when you approach investors, they would prefer to fund an industry or a sector or a country that they're very familiar with. And so what you see when it comes to funding is that your investors are familiar with these sectors, and so they are funding these areas, right? Because you want to fund what you're interested in, and so what we are seeing is a reflection of some of the ideas that startup founders have been able to come up with, but also from the fact that these are areas that are of interest to most of these external investors. So we have very few VC funds, like, you know, some that have been started by Akinola, you know, that just focus on African startups, and they are by African investors. So you see that they'll pay more attention to problems that they're very familiar with. So, I mean, these sectors, you know, we're excited, funding is coming, but it is not enough, because it does not truly reflect, you know, the practical problems that we're currently experiencing. And this is more or less, this actually gives a big disadvantage to some startup founders who have incredible ideas and are solving real problems, but because they're not attractive enough to some of these investors and VC funds that we actually look up to, they get very little funding, and it discourages them. But if they're able to push through, you know, at just the right time, they will get the funding regardless. So yeah, it's not enough.
Okay, on the issue of investment and funding, Akinola, there's this cliche normal saying that only the one that wears the shoe knows where it pinches. If it is difficult to get foreign investors to invest in our tech startups that they cannot relate with, isn't it viable to look inward to locally sourced investment to push this startup since the local people understand and can relate better with this problem?
Yeah, I think a lot of startups should start looking inward, like um, Cynthia just said now, that some of the investments that come into Nigeria are based on interests, and familiarity with certain industries. So for those startups who feel that they are not getting enough fundings or haven't received funding at all and would like to really accelerate that business and expand the market, it's a good idea to begin to look at inward or existing structures within Nigeria or Africa that really support that business. Take for instance, my own company, Wanted Servers. We had at some point in time tried to raise money to expand our business, but at that time VCs were not really looking at that space. But right now it's a good time for us to try one more time. Like she said earlier, that if it's not that time, you can always try. But what we did to scale through that period was to bootstrap. We got money from family, friends, and all that. We put all that together, did excellent marketing strategies, and within a space of 2 years, we were able to achieve our milestone. So yes, we can begin to look inward.
All right. Cynthia, I'll come to you because you lived in London for a while. Still on the issue of investment, but on the grander picture of the perception of Nigeria by those in the diaspora, by other nationals. I've personally experienced it where I was traveling with a group of friends who were not Nigerians, same destination, we all had the same visa type and same reasons to travel. And when it got to the check-in counter, once they saw my passport, I was subjected to a more rigorous search. So there's a problem of perception, and most of these are not really unfounded because we always have this notion of Nigeria wants to get quick and use a shortcut, bypass the process, and there's this stigma that has come with us about our integrity and all. How can we, using the successes that we're making in the tech industry, redress some of these stereotypes that define us as a people?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that we just need to come to the fact that and the reality that this is what it is, right? And for any company, any individual who has one form of stigma or the other, basically people have this perception towards you. Like you just need to, okay, this is how people see me, and then you now begin to think of how you can change that. I mean, there are a lot of efforts by the media, arts, the Nollywood and different industries that are actively pushing towards like changing this. But I think for the tech space, what we just need to do is just to keep our head down on our work, right? And just keep doing what we know how to do best. Keep building startups that make so much sense. Keep building startups that add value. And over time, those perceptions will change, because the reason why we're here today is because some people were doing things, right? Some people were actively doing something in creating this perspective that people think. I mean, I got an email from my company. So while we were still building this product many years ago, we got an email from a guy called Solomon in London, and he wanted to make a pair of shoes. And then he asked, do you guys use cow hooves to make heels? I was like, when I got the email, I was like, what's going on here? Like, does he really think I live in a hut or something? Right? And so it's because of some form of communication by many people in the past, and it's not their fault that they are where they are today. So what we need to do is just keep our head in the game. Stop, crying over and shouting over the fact that they don't see you the way you want them to see you. Just push the right media, build products that really solve problems, and trust me, with time, it's not really hard to not notice when someone is doing the right thing for a very long time. And they would understand that great products do come out, and these products can solve their own problems. There's There's a very important story I got the other day of a company that came from a foreign country, a Western country, to implement a project in Africa, right? And they were trying to take their own technology and their own innovation and just impose it on that community, but it wasn't just working. So they put that aside and then tried to see what works. And they came up with a technology that was so novel and innovative that they had to push back their own idea and take this one that was so low cost and so effective and take it back to their home country and start using it. So the idea is that we just keep innovating in our own way, in our own unique way. Let's not feel like we need to push our ideas aside. And then we see that over time they would see, the beauty of this concept.
All right, perfect. Okay, now we're talking about young people. The reawakening is specifically targeted on the youth and getting the youth engaged. So Akinola, most of the people, the players in the tech space these days are self-taught. They're people who teach themselves how to code, how to do whatever it is they're doing in the tech space. But the world is going tech. I mean, we're talking metaverse now. We're really going out of this world. Is there a feasibility of including practical tech courses in our university education system? Do you think that would help the future of Nigeria?
Yeah, I think it's going to help the future of Nigeria, and there's a whole lot to.
Sorry, please, before you continue your answer, yeah. I'm asking, considering the current lecturers, the professors, the people that we have manning the system.
I believe you can see.
So I don't just want an idealistic answer. I want an answer based on the way our education system, especially the tertiary education system, is currently structured.
Yeah, I got you, and I believe we can get to that point. But if I'm going to be very practical with you, a whole lot of youths who want to go into the tech industry will still have to go through the self-taught route, right, and use platforms or institutions like Andela, the Semicolon and Co. to bolster their interest in technology. Coding and all that. Take for instance, my journey so far in the tech industry has been self-taught, and whenever I need to apply for maybe a next level job or something, I need certificates, I just quickly go online, do a course that I'm already into just to get the certificate to do it. Yeah. So yes, a whole lot of youth will still have to go through that route, to the self-taught route for now. But I'm optimistic about what the future holds for our education system. The other day I was telling a friend that the future I see for Nigeria education system is a future whereby our students are using virtual reality to really in the classroom. Whereby virtual reality they can actually look at what the human skeleton looks like beyond what we saw. Human skeletons, in 2D, the structure and all that, where they can actually interact with the underwater ecosystem, see how the shark looks like, And this doesn't just apply to those who have access to the funds to take their awards to those kind of schools that use the virtual reality. But this to come back to how those in the tech sector can also begin to look at how they can make good education inclusive, in the sense that those who don't have access to funds to take their school to the high-profile schools can have like a hub where these young lads walk into, and once in a week or twice in a day, they get to really experience what the virtual reality really is all about. I'm emphasizing on virtual reality because this is what the future is really all about right now. So yes, I'm optimistic about what the future of the education system looks like. But to really answer your question, self-taught is still the route for now.
Still the way to go for now.
Still the route for now.
Okay, I like how you hit on people who are not privileged to go to the high-profile schools. But I'd like to take it a step further, Cynthia, because we're always guilty of something when we have some of these conversations. We're always guilty many times of focusing on those who have the opportunities or privileges that we have, We're just talking about tech here. There are people in this country, and a large number that cannot be ignored, who don't have access to internet facilities, who don't even have the knowledge of internet facilities. right? And I think one of the sad things that happened during the industrial oil boom, if you like, is that it was just focused on the educated, right? You go to school, you get a degree, get an oil company job, and the poor is still in the poor, in the rural areas, still being farmers without having an interaction between the industrial revolution and whatever they do. How can we make sure that as the world moves towards tech and virtual reality, that we as Africans, understanding our large, poor, rural, illiterate population, how do we get them involved, seeing all the limitations that they have?
It's a very good and true question. Actually, this question is very dear to my heart because I've had conversations with many people in this tech startup space, especially the fintech. So we've seen a lot of investment in fintech, and there's this idea unbanked, and then you look at the products and the people that are currently being served, you realize that these are people that can be banked, or these are people that are currently being banked one way or the other. Yeah. So the actual unbanked people are not really being addressed, right? And so what happens with ideologies like this is that you see a lot of funding going in the direction of a product that doesn't really solve the problem that it's preaching about. So what we need is a lot of tech founders, or startup founders who are genuinely passionate about the country first, not about their pockets, not about the idea of having a tech startup, right? They need to first of all think about Nigeria and how can I take Nigeria, like how can I move it forward? Because until you have that perspective, you never really come to the idea that maybe one day you should just take a drive down your own streets and then you see the reality of your own people. It will drive the kind of ideas you have, actually. I was just having a conversation with you. We're talking about how Thrive Agric is using technology to help, farmers that are truly underserved, right? And the only way you find them is by going inside those places, having conversations with those people. But what you have is a lot of tech founders who are just having conversations with the people that they have access to. They go to tech, conversations. So the ideas are quite similar, right? There's no one is really saying, okay, can I just go down to the nearest community beside me, just have a conversation with one or two people? I'm currently working on a project with Global Shapers, and our goal really is not to impose an idea or some solutions on people, is to really go down to the association level, go down to the market and ask them, what are your problems? What are the problems that you're currently going through, and what kind of policies do you think would help you do better? I think that's the way to really address this. Like, tech startup founders should stop thinking about themselves, stop thinking about the money that they can acquire, stop thinking about the fame. First of all, have like a nation building mindset, because with a nation building mindset, you become more aware of your community, you become more aware of the people in it, and you are able to see that this product here is working for a particular target audience, but I think I can really reach these people that are unbanked, and I can come up with products that truly solve these problems, right? So it starts from a mindset of nation building and just being very practical and going forward to those communities and having conversations. You'll be shocked at what you'll find out.
Yeah, and to add to what Cynthia just said now, I think there's that part where tech founders need to be really intentional about the product, right? So if your product, like Cynthia said, is to bank the unbanked, it really has to be able to bank the unbanked, right? If a product is to provide education to those who don't have access to education, it should really be doing that. Let us leave this whole ideology that is the government's responsibility and all that. We all, both on the individual level and the tech level, nation building, we have tremendous role to play in nation building and really ensuring that those who don't really have access to all these things, we are really intentional about giving them access to it.
Okay. To follow up that, a question for you. Now there's the young tech founder, startup founder, entrepreneur that's listening, and I'm saying, okay, you guys are speaking English, it sounds good and all, but guy, I just want to focus, get my products, get my foreign investment, get my funding, have my business, get it to unicorn status, live la vida loca, and just chill. I'm not interested in all this nation building. Is it possible in a society as Nigeria, to have a successful tech startup, totally absent public interest, nation building, governance, and just live in a bubble, so to speak. Is that a feasible way to go about things?
I think for such a startup, it has just set itself up to fail right from the onset. It's not possible.
Could you
It's
please
not
shed more
possible.
light on it?
So one of the things I've learned over my years of being in tech industry, is that where there's value, money flows in the direction of value, right? So if your product is built around educating people, you can't live in a box of not allowing your product to be public facing, right? It's not possible. So when you begin to provide value or when you provide solution, right? You're solving a problem. You're creating solutions that solve good problems in the society. There is no way you want to make money. It's either on the short term or eventually on the long term. So for any founder out there who thinks that we are speaking English and all that, it's all good, we dressed up and all that. VCs are looking at investing in the business, or VCs are already in the business. Trust me, value is the most important thing. Why does a business exist? Why does a product exist? When you understand why your product exists, then it's easy for you to let your product solve this problem. And trust me, as your product is solving the problem, one way or the other, you live a life with a local life. One way or the other. Trust me, guys.
So it's not feasible to be in that bubble. You have something to add?
Yeah, just to add to what he said, I mean, there's no how you live in a country like ours and think that you can just build your startup without thinking about other stakeholders. Go-Kata is a very good example. Cryptocurrency space also is a very good example, right? You need to think about the nation. You need to think about stakeholders like the federal government. They're very critical because laws can be passed on tomorrow that will basically shut down your business, and there's nothing you can do, right? The only thing you can make noise on Instagram or Twitter, because we've seen this, right? And before you know it, everybody forgets about what happened, and then you have to find your way. You might survive like Go-Kata, and end up doing an entirely different business from what you started with, or you may not survive. We may not remember your name tomorrow. So from the beginning, it's very important. When you have things like pestle, think about all the different the political environment, the technological environment. Think about that space. Think about what the government is doing in that space. Think about what the conversations that are going on, by key stakeholders in that space, so that you would not be new to some of the laws that will come up with. Because usually what happens is that conversations are already happening, and if you're in the right positions, if you're in the right conversations, you would know, okay, for my business, I need to start thinking about this in this light because the federal government is already making steps in this direction. It will actually help you build a business that can last for a very long time. Because if you're thinking about building a startup that's going to be around for 100 years, for 500 years, except if that's not what you're thinking about. But if that's the kind of startup you want to build, then you need to start thinking of stakeholder management, right? The reason why Dangote is still alive till now is because he has conversations with people in government, right? If you want to really, really stand the test of time, you need to have public interest. You need to have nation interest. You need to have these conversations, be in the right places. Don't just go for tech community events. Go for political events. Watch the news, watch channels television, watch AIT, because those are the people you're going to be having conversations with. Because now you're a startup founder, your community is small, but once your business grows, people will pay attention, and people in leadership actually will pay attention. So start paying attention to them now.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Before I let you guys go, I would like us to you just answer this question, then follow it up with your final thoughts. Okay. We're experiencing what has been termed a brain drain in education system, where the best and the brightest always look for opportunities, and of course there are abundance of opportunities for them to travel out. Okay, we have our best doctors, our best lawyers, engineers, professionals across all strata of society our best minds, our best and brightest youngest minds are all leaving the nation and all contributing to the socio-economic development of other countries. How can the tech evolution and the success of the tech industry be leveraged to convince our best minds to stay back and contribute to Nigerian society? So you answer that and then follow it up with your final thoughts. Cynthia, I'll start with you this time.
Okay. I think what I would say is, well, they don't need to stay behind. The reason why we want them to stay behind because they're so few. So the major focus for tech founders is to increase that number. So that even people want to travel, the remittance that comes back to Nigeria is still helpful. But we have more bright minds who are passionate about the nation and will stay back to build the nation. So instead of clamoring for them to not leave, we should build products that will increase the number of really, really amazing bright minds for the nation, right? So that way, we're not totally dependent on a couple of people who want to travel out, because there's so many reasons why people want to travel out. Some people go observe and realize that all that they've been preaching about is not true, and they come back disappointed. Yeah. Some people go and they end up doing amazing things, and we Nigerians are so proud of them, right? So let's leave those guys and let's build more bright minds in our own country. And I think like the final words, that I'll give to tech startup founders, to Nigerians out there is, it pays to be a patriotic, Nigerian. Like it really pays, because regardless of the challenges that we see around us, when you have the right vision, when you are driven by the fact that you want to see change in your community, your name will be remembered forever. I don't know if that's a focus that you have, but for someone like me, right, I am more interested in how many people I can impact over a period of time, right? And when you have a nation building mindset, there's a higher chance where you can actually do that, right? There may not be enough money right now, and something I've seen with every startup story that I've studied, through the Startup Story podcast and articles that I release, is that every single startup they have this similar like phases. So there's the first phase where you're trying so hard to generate income, it's really hard, and then there's a stage where you are now going out looking for money and no one is saying yes to you. But there's also another stage where you keep building and the money start chasing you. People start chasing you with funding for your product, and you get the right funding and then you grow. What happens is that in between that first stage and the second stage, many startup founders give up, right? And if you really, really want to get to that point where money is chasing after you and there's lots of funding for you to do what you're doing, you need to keep at it. And the only reason why many of these startup founders get to the second stage is because they have a vision that is bigger than them, that is beyond them, that is about impacting people. So if you have a nation building mindset, there's every high chance you will come up with a vision like that, and which means you will get to that stage of reaching millions of people.
Thank you. Powerful message, Akinola.
It's very powerful. And I'm just going to slide on what Cynthia said. I think for someone like me, one of my greatest values, legacy, right? What is my contribution to the Nigerian society? And I think I ran with that vision for over a decade, and which is one of the reasons why, like she said also, I have a couple of products that has moved from the first stage and is now in the second stage. Awesome. I'm going to go back to one of my products that's Wanted Servers. We did bootstrap for 5 years, right? And now we're in that phase where we just want to expand. Like we really want to expand. Now, the reason why we're able to stay that long in the bootstrap phase and understand how the industry works, right, is because there was a goal in the first place, which is to help 500 Nigerians put their business online.
Okay.
And we smashed that goal within 5 years without external investment, right? And that is us having a legacy. That is us sticking to our values. That is us understanding our why. Now, coming back to your question about the brain, the education drain, the brain drain. Yes, it's something that is really going on within the medical space, even the tech space as well.
Virtually almost every space.
Yeah, so we have some companies some startups that they don't want to be affiliated to Nigeria, right? Because there's this sentiment that it's hard to get funding and all that. Yeah, that's true to an extent. I'm not going to deny that, right? But at the same time, it still goes back to your value, what is important to you. Is it nation building? Is it cash? Right. What's your mindset? Is your mindset quick money, live with a local lifestyle, or something that lives, or something that is bigger than you? Yes. Right. So I'm just going to wrap up with this. No matter what you're building, no matter what stage you are, it's important for you to always go back to your why at every point, at every stage of that you climb in. It's always important when you stick to your why you're having this product in the first place, why you're raising money in the first place, why you want your product to be a Pan-African product in the first place. You wouldn't need to be convinced to stay or to go. You would always know what to do at the right time.
Yeah, thank you very much. It has been quite the insightful and educative conversation on tech space, startups, entrepreneurs, and nation building. As we've all heard, we have a part to play. You might have been self-taught in your tech journey. You might have money and just bottom line as your target. But true value comes when you're impacting the next person, your community, your nation, and when you're leaving a legacy. Like we always say here on The Reawakening, Nigeria must work, Nigeria can work, Nigeria will work, but only if we all work. Till next time.